Let's welcome in our guest joining us on the show, Vineeta Sharma, Head of Research at Narnolia Financial Advisors. Thanks very much, Vineeta, for good to have you on the show. What is the sense that you have at the moment? We seem poised at a very, very tricky place as far as the market is concerned. We've started a bit of a recovery after the kind of lows that we've seen recently. The macro picture has definitely turned positive. But that said, at the end of this week and the start of next week, we have the results coming in for state elections. And of course, we're going into a politically uncertain time as far as next calendar year is concerned as well. What is the strategy in a market like this?
See, if we look at the market right now, definitely there are a lot of, it will be an event-based market, at least for the next 10 days or so, and going forward also if you keep a year's perspective. Looking at what the Fed Reserve meeting, what the outcome would be, as well as the election, as well as, how the OPEC, which will be on the 6th of December. So a lot of events are underway, and that would obviously be a thing to watch. If we keep Nifty earnings as a perspective and see how the market is positioned right now, we'll see that the market is currently, if we take 620 as FY20 EPS for Nifty, we are trading around 17.5 times forward earning. In that context, maximum on the lower side, I see 10,200 is a place where maximum, Nifty can go and make a base, but that should be a entry, that will always be an entry point. We are very positive on how the earning would pan for FY20, and that will give a good amount of return to the investor going forward.
All right, so that's the strategy as far as the market is concerned at the moment. But let's start then by focusing on all the market action today, starting with the top gainer on the Nifty, Indiabulls Housing Finance, and we saw a jump of 9.5% come in for that counter. And this after the company came out with a very positive view on their liquidity position at the moment. The management, in fact, saying they're hopeful of maintaining positive cash balance over the next 5 quarters. We spoke, in fact, earlier on with Ashwini Kumar Huda, the Deputy Managing Director at the company, who told us more about their liquidity position at the moment. Listen in.
With more pool becoming available for securitization, it is a step in the right direction especially for housing finance industry, where most of the assets are longer tenor, more than 5 years. For us, we have now additional pool of 15,000 crore till December and 25,000 crore of pool available till March for securitization. So it gives us a lot of comfort. Securitization for us on an incremental basis is around 5,000-6,000 crore for till March. So we will not need all these assets for sell down, but having those assets which can be readily sold adds to the liquidity comfort for the company.
That's the view coming in from the management of Indiabulls Housing Finance. Vineeta, a lot of disclosures and clarifications being made there by the management, at least to kind of reassure investors at this point. And this is the case across the board as far as many of these housing finance and NBFC companies are concerned. What is the sense that you have? Is the worst over as far as the liquidity crunch goes?
See, if we consider the housing finance sector as such in the NBFC space, so Indiabulls right now is giving, a good guidance of liquidity being in control going forward, and that they have been doing in the last quarter commentary also. That confidence they have given, and we can see it in the balance sheet. They have good amount of cash. The point here is going forward for HFCs in particular. We are not seeing too much of growth. The AUM growth definitely would come, but the net interest margin for these companies are still not in a position to expand further. In the past, NBFCs or housing finance particularly have gained because of the net interest margin expansion or along with the AUM expansion. So where we get a discomfort on the NIM going forward, and definitely for those companies where liquidity positions are in control and they're backed by good management, or say a Can Fin Home which has a management pedigree, which has a backing of Canara Bank and stuff. So I think if somebody wants to be in a housing finance, they can be with some companies where they have the management pedigree. Otherwise, we are neutral on the sector as such.
All right, neutral on the sector, but you can consider some of the well-placed NBFCs with good management pedigree as well. That was definitely one of the top gainers of the day, closing out with gains of 9.5% on India Bulls Housing Finance. On the flip side, though, look at what happened as far as the Sun Pharma is concerned. It was the top loser on the Nifty. It plunged about 7.5%, and this after a whistleblower approached SEBI, alleging irregularities by the company as well as its promoter. Now, SEBI may, on the back of these allegations, reopen an insider trading case against the company back from 2017. The stock turned sentiment, of course, on the pharma index, which also closed under pressure, down nearly 2%, making it the top sectoral loser of the day. Vineeta, any call at this point on a Sun Pharma? If you've gone through the kind of allegations, is there any concern that this could result in major, erosion of value for many investors, or do you think that the fundamentals are in place and it's an opportunity, in fact, to be getting into this stock?
See, it's difficult to, comment as such on Sun Pharma particularly. It's because, if there is no smoke, without fire. So definitely, I would not advise any investor to jump into a conclusion and buy Sun Pharma just because even if the fundamentals are not too much in control, and definitely if you look at in a very short period of time, if you look at the quarterly results, they have not been very inspiring. Also, the US price erosion for most of the for all the pharma sector as such has definitely cooled down, and for Sun Pharma there are products launched in FY20, and on the back of which the growth should come. But I would advise investors to, at this point of time, they should hold on before taking a conclusion on the stock.
All right, so it's a wait and watch as far as the Sun Pharma is concerned. A fair bit of caution is the advice as you approach this stock. But let's talk about some of the top gainers as well. Metals had a very good day of trade, in fact, closing out amongst the top sectoral gainers of the day. Indian metal stocks outperformed in particular, and this after that truce that was reached between US President as well as the Chinese Premier at the G20 summit. The fact that they will not be increasing tariffs on the that was planned in January of next year, and the fact that they will now put the conflict on hold for about 90 days, that definitely seems to be good news for many of these metal players. Vineeta, does this change the way you're looking at metals at the moment? We definitely saw a relief rally come into many of these stocks. If we talk about Vedanta, Hindalco, even the steel names, the JSPL, Steel Authority of India. What is the sense at this point, and which are the names on your list?
See, metal has always been a tactical buy. If you are able to see the market, and if you are able to ride the, I would not advise a person to be a very long-term investor in a metal company because it has cyclical issues. So if you are able to track the company, well and fine. For instance, we are liking JSW Steel, and this company it's come down from lows, and the kind of, the metal prices, they have cooled off quite a bit. And if there is certain chance that if the metal prices from here on goes above, we are liking Hindalco and JSW Steel. That's the two stock we are advising our investors to buy.
Those are the names for you to consider as far as the metal pack is concerned. But let's put the focus then on the big story of the day: consolidation in the FMCG space as Unilever finally gets to taste Horlicks, India's #1 malt-based drink. Now, Hindustan Unilever is set to buy GSK Consumer's India business, and the transaction values the total business of GSK Consumer Healthcare at about 31,700 crore rupees. We have Neha Tyagi joining in with all the details. Neha, take us through what the contours of the merger are.
Well, that's right. HUL has reached a definitive agreement with GSK Consumer Healthcare India, and the transaction is an all-equity merger with 4.39 shares of HUL being allotted for every share in GSK Consumer Healthcare India. This transaction values the total business at about 317 billion. The transaction is expected to be completed in 1 year, subject to regulatory and shareholder approvals. It was only last week that the news reports came out saying Unilever had entered exclusive negotiations with Glaxo. Now Now, the merger includes the totality of operations within GSK Consumer India, including a consignment selling contract to distribute GSK's over-the-counter and oral healthcare products in India. Now, GSK has a wide range of prescription medicines, vaccines, and consumer healthcare products. The food and nutritious drinks portfolio has Horlicks as well as Boost, then Horlicks Oats, Horlicks Biscuits, and so many other food items. Note that HUL also had just launched breakfast menu as well. As far as OTC and oral healthcare business is concerned, there is Eno, Sensodyne toothpaste, Iodex pain reliever, Crocin, etc. The whole business is valued at about rupees 42 billion. According to Euromonitor, Horlicks is number 1 in India in the malt-based hot drinks market with about 43% share, followed by Bonvita and then Boost, which is also a GSK product. Now, what will this deal mean for HUL? Now, according to Edelweiss Securities, the deal will help Unilever strengthen its food portfolio in India that currently comprises only of 2 popular brands, Kisan and Knorr, which makes for about 18% of the total revenue. The deal will result in foods and refreshment business going up by about 9%. So from current contribution of about 18% to 27%. Now, with a boost like that, HUL is likely to become one of the largest food and refreshments companies in India. Now, the chairman of HUL said that with this proposed strategic merger, HUL will be expanding the portfolio with great brands into a new category catering to nutritional needs of consumers. HUL expects F&R business to exceed rupees 100 billion in terms of revenue. As far as GSK's consumer is concerned, it will benefit from HUL's direct distribution, which reaches around 3.5 million outlets at a time when growth of malt-based drinks has slowed down. Now, GSK had first announced its intention for a partial or full sale of its stake in GSK Consumer in March this year. Note that GSK sold its Horlick franchise in the UK last year. GSK said that the decision was part of their plan to drive increased focus on OTC and oral healthcare categories.
All right, Neha, thanks very much for taking us through that. Vineeta, the big deal, and it's finally done as far as HUL and GSK Consumer is concerned. Horlicks definitely is the big brand there, but like Neha was pointing out, there has been this slowdown in malt-based drinks. That said, it seems like there are synergies on both sides. The stocks also both reacted very, very positively to the news after that initial knee-jerk sort of a reaction that we saw for an HUL. What do you make of the synergies in terms of this deal, and would you be buying an HUL on the back of this?
Yeah, HUL has been the top pick in the FMCG space, and with the GSK Consumer buy will be it's a very good move in the sense it will expand the food processing aspect of the HUL company, and this in fact it would trigger a lot of changes in the industry as such, because the GSK will be given now a whole lot of distribution channel of HUL. Now, HUL is very well penetrated into India, as well as with the GSK acquisition, the kind of synergies that should come over, I think that should be huge, and this might impact some other food processing companies as well as because the kind of the growth that should come from this synergy, this merger, will impact the other companies also listed in this space. So they might have a competition pressure going forward from this kind of acquisition.
All right, competition pressure going forward after this kind of an acquisition. The stocks both ended near the highs of the day. HUL, in fact, closing out with gains in excess of 4%. Vineeta, do stay with us. We'll take a quick break here on Tomorrow's Bets. On the other side, we put the spotlight on the auto space. Low demand, high rates, dented November auto sales numbers. We'll bring you the details. Stay tuned.